What are we gonna do now?
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Strange, the Explosion Network's Life is Strange Season 2 after show, where me and Nick are breaking down the episodes that be. Maybe it'll take the next 10 years to cover the entire series if they only release one per year or something like that. But we're back after, I feel like,
quite a few months. Yeah.
Yes, it's been a long time between episodes, but can't be helped.
What was it, October? I want to say
something like
November?
that. It was
yeah,
such a long time ago that before booting up this episode, I did do a quick Wikipedia synopsis, like read up and was like, oh yeah, that's right, all these things happen. Not that I completely forgot, but just to kind of spur the memory.
Nuances.
Yeah, I'm like, in case I miss any little things like that. But we're here to talk about episode 2. It's called Rules, which makes sense once you get into the the storyline of the episode and stuff, of course. So in a second, we'll start running through the overall plot points and stuff, of course, and discussing that stuff. But before that, what are your overall thoughts on the episode, and did you like it?
Nope.
Not at all?
No, it killed all momentum the story had up to this point.
Oh, dear.
And I felt like every choice I made did not matter whatsoever. Like, I felt like it presented choices, but all the choices were, in a sense, essentially the same.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you think that's... Because I can kind of understand that from a certain perspective, because I felt like once they started getting to the stuff with Chris and stuff, that entire section of the game just seems very, like, it's obviously set on a certain path and certain things are going to happen, and a lot of what you do there, I don't feel like makes much difference. I think this is an okay episode. Like, it's fine. I don't think it's super exciting. I don't think it's bad. I think it's the what happens after you have a big opener where, obviously it starts with this massive thing of their dad dying and all that sort of stuff, and then they get like fucking kidnapped and locked up by the race, and then they have a road trip with this. It's like when you look back at episode 1, especially after you've played this, it's like, holy shit, like a lot was happening in episode 1. It was like really fast and like fucking shit was rolling. And I feel like this episode kind of needed to be more of and let's just have a deep breath, kind of take a second to chill for a moment here. And I kind of appreciate that, because I feel like if this episode, like, that got captured by more crazy rednecks and, like too over the top with just playing on the whole, that aspect of the storyline, it would have been you would have been like, oh, it's a bit much now. Like, this is becoming unrealistic if, like, they're getting captured by new rednecks every single fucking town they walk into or something.
I can understand that, but I think I felt like I can appreciate the taking a breather in between stuff, but I felt like this whole episode was just, the whole thing was taking a breather. Like, it's just slowed down to a crawl, and it felt longer than it had to be. Much longer. Like, now that I think about it, I think this is the worst I've received an episode of Life is Strange out of the whole 3 so far.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Big call.
A lot of it comes down to a lot of the decisions you make. Like, I feel like a lot of the decisions are tell Daniel no, or let Daniel do whatever he wants. But if you tell him no, he just badgers you and you give in to him anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll go into deeper, obviously. Yeah.
It's I feel like it was a character building episode, but it was a character building episode of them giving you the story more so than you building the characters yourself. It was more an expedition episode that you could dive into. Like, it was an episode really, when you come down to it, a lot of it is just spent building up to explaining a lot of Daniel and Sean's family tree and getting to build all that sort of stuff a bit more and explain that and set up the storyline with her mum and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, I can get it. But I thought it was okay. I didn't love it. I don't know, if I was chucking a score at it, 6.5 to a 7-ish, somewhere in that line. It's fine. Yeah, it's fine. I don't think it's bad. And once again, my thing often with these episodes for like Telltale series and these and whatever episodic sort of stuff, sometimes I do find when you look back at the complete package, you can go, yeah, it does make sense that one there kind of is like that, the way that one's paced, especially when you can look at the full 5 episodes up down spectrum. But when you're playing them spaced out over 3 to 4 month periods, it is hard to not sometimes play an episode like this and be like, oh, like it was so long, and then it was just for this, and now I'll have to wait so long again, and then you know, so it's hard to keep the momentum going. Whereas you could play this if the series was released as a whole. Sometime, like I do think you could play this episode, like you could have played episode 1, jump straight into this, and be like, oh, that was a bit slower, but then you could jump straight into episode 3, and maybe that's a bit more exciting and a lot more happens, and then like the up down of it wouldn't be affecting your opinion overall of the series as much compared to having to wait. I feel. Yeah. All right, let's jump into the episode and discuss it a bit. So the episode starts in a forest. We're not really sure how long. I mean, maybe you could work it out if you look at the date from where the first episode ends or something like that to figure out how long they've been in the forest. But I didn't go that far. But Sean and Daniel are in the forest. Sean is training Daniel on how to use his powers. They're practicing picking up and levitating a bunch of rocks, attempting to move bigger rocks and bottles and sorts of things like this. It's a scene that you could probably get over and done with very fast, or fuck around with a bunch here, I suppose. Depends how much you're walking around. You want to mess with the rocks and stuff.
Yeah. I fucked around a bit here, but I don't feel like I got anything from fucking around there.
Yeah, no, I don't think
there's nothing interesting there to see.
No. I thought as an opening setup, it's like, oh, okay, they're training and the powers, and they're straight into that. And that's nice. And it's good to see Sean trying to help him with his powers. And I like the aspect they're going with that. Like, we got to train you to be a superhero and whatever else is going on here.
Use the Force League.
Yeah, use the Force League. And you get to see Mushroom, the dog, run around and be cute for a little bit here. So that's also nice. The one choice that you could make here for Sean was you threw the snowball properly. You threw it at Daniel. You threw it at Mushroom. You threw it at both Daniel and Mushroom. I threw it at Daniel.
As did I.
Yes. Because when he's saying like don't do it, I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'll throw it at him and it'll stop like midair and it'll be like, oh yeah, how cool. But then you just throw it at him, hits him in the face. He's like, motherfucker, don't. I'm like, oh well, I'm sorry. Then there's other thing here, I'll just chuck it in here, even though I think this choice like is wrapped up in this entire section. But for the Daniel stuff, it is Daniel continued to swear, or he did not swear. Which I'm not sure where they draw the line on that, because obviously Daniel's choices are a little bit more overarching when you come to the end of it compared to the Sean stuff that they're giving you. But my one was Daniel continued to swear, because when when he's like swearing and stuff, I was just like, he didn't fucking swear. I don't, like, why am I going to tell him off?
I think that that is a more impactful or kind of meaningful kind of thing in America, where swearing is like more like ooh, whereas opposed to where else it's just whatever.
Like, I understand he's a kid and like all that sort of stuff, but
kids swear.
Yeah, I'm like, what is he, like 12? I don't know, 11? I mean, he's not 5.
Like year 5 or 6 or something like that, I'd imagine.
Well, he's not young. I'm like, we literally just watched our dad die, get shot by a police officer. You've got fucking superpowers going on. The least of our problems is you saying fuck at the moment. Yeah, really, exactly. in the scheme of everything that's going on. Okay, so then we move on. They go up to a cabin, and we learn that both Daniel and Sean have been staying inside the cabin that they found in the woods. Must have just found it empty and it's abandoned. I presume it's like some sort of holiday home or something along those lines. I guess.
I believe I've read there's a section of dialogue or something where the people who owned it and moved away or something like that. Or something like that. Okay, I must have
missed that on my one. So they've turned it into some sort of makeshift home. It has a fire, working stove top, so like bare minimums to kind of be able to survive, a bed that they can sleep on, and also using the gear. Well, in mine, I was using all the gear that I had. I'm not sure if everyone has the same amount of gear though. Like, I had a tent, I had a sleeping bag, you know, like all these things I took.
I think I just had the sleeping bag.
Yeah, so I had a tent as well. So like, there's little.
You stole off the.
Because when I knocked down that shopkeeper, and it was like you could choose to grab it quickly, or just leave it, and I was like, no, fucking, I'm stealing it now. He fucking kidnapped us. Like, really?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like a tiny little sliver over from episode 1, I suppose, is that I've got a tent as well. So they've only got a little bit of remaining food as well. We find out pretty quickly they've only got like a few cans of food remaining, and it becomes obvious to Sean here that Daniel is getting quite sick, and they end up having to discuss heading off to their grandparents' place. I don't know if they call them their grandparents or whatever term they use in America. I don't know what they say for what they would refer to them as.
I thought they were just calling them by their name.
Were they? Okay.
I believe so.
Well, for understanding's sake, they're the grandparents.
Oh,
I guess,
yeah.
Nen and Pop or whatever you call them. From their mum's side, though, is the thing. It's not from their dad's side of the family. It's from their mum's side of the family, which, of course, we never talked about her mum in episode 1. It was obviously... I mean, you was aware as a player that their mum wasn't around, although there was no scene really discussing, I guess.
I don't recall. And I just knew you knew that she wasn't around.
Yeah, you knew that she wasn't around, and this episode goes heavy, of course, into details about her mum and stuff. But so he brings up that idea. Daniel rejects it because, like, will they accept us? Blah 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 blah. You can get a little bit of an understanding here about the relationship that they must have with that side of the family, given whatever's gone down with their mum, which we learn about later, of course. Also, a standout in this whole cabin scene here at nighttime to me was the fucking scare that Daniel pulls, which actually it made me jump too. I was like, "Holy shit, you little motherfucker!"
Someone's at the door.
It scared the shit out of me. It's so funny though because like. It happened, and like when it like fell or whatever, as you walk towards the door, the coda water's hovering there. I was like, "Holy shit!" But it made it even funnier having the character of Sean in the game as well, be like, "Oh," and then like you could turn around and be like, "You little motherfucker!" So that made it all good. This is also. So they basically go for a night, cook food here, have a bunch of conversations. You can explore and look around the cabin a bit here and stuff. You end up playing a game of dice and stuff like that, cooking some food, bunch of not really important stuff, but just like conversations you can have and skip.
Relationship building
stuff that you could rush through if you want to or not, depending on how far you're going. I enjoyed it though. I think the overall cabin night scene played out really well for like getting to understand their relationship a lot better coming to this now that they've been training his powers for some time, and like how that dynamic is playing off between the two brothers and stuff, how they're living together and all sorts of things. The choices here are, or things that come out. Daniel won the dice game without cheating. Daniel won the dice game while cheating, or Daniel lost the game. Daniel lost the game because I kicked that guy's fucking ass. Like, I'm too good at this dice game.
Got Daniel won the game by cheating, but I never noticed him cheating.
Oh, didn't you notice him cheating? I noticed it. I called him out.
No, I just completely slipped by me.
I was staring at because I could tell it was going to happen. You know, you're like dice. He's got powers. I can see where this is going in a second. So I was paying full attention.
Qui-Gonned it.
Yeah, I was paying full attention as it's going, and I was staring at the dice after he threw them, and then like two of them just slightly. They rolled over to another side, and then I looked up because you could look up at his character, and then like called him out, and I was like, "You cheater!" He's like, "I wasn't cheating," and then you can like choose to continue and call him out and say like, I think it said one of the options was just stop the game there and just be like, "You're cheating, fuck it," but I just chose to keep playing the game, and I remember thinking as I'm playing it, like if he does it again, I'm just going to be like, "No, we're not playing it with your cheating ass," but he never did it again after I called him out once, probably because I called him out, but then I continued to win anyway. Either way. I find this dice game interesting thing because it's not something they've really done before, but of course they did the D&D aspect, but different studio. But Life is Strange still did the whole D&D aspect and stuff like that. So kind of thing, as far as I'm aware, this is some made up dice game that they have just made up for this game.
It took me quite a bit to understand how exactly to play it.
Well, it's like they rolling for the what is it, the captain?
You need to fill the crew on the ship before you get treasure or whatever.
Yeah, so you basically needed to roll a 6, 5, and a 4 or whatever to fill out the ship, and then after you've got those, you're able to roll for your crew with whatever remaining rolls you got left, and that's your score.
Yeah, that's your score. Yeah.
I was like, it's simple, but it was. Yeah. I was like,
it's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, it's interesting that they've made up this game for this. Next thing I want to talk about is one scene that I thought was like important character moment, I think overall that stood out to me throughout the episode, which is this one quick scene where right before they're about to go to bed, Sean goes outside to have a cigarette.
Yeah.
And this is the whole thing. He's just smoking, music, blah, blah, blah. Comes up with the title screen, Life is Strange 2 rules. But I think one important thing here is that when he's outside having a smoke, he one stage looks down and he holds out his hand at a rock, and he holds it out over the rock in a little bit of an attempt to see if he could move it type thing, which I think you could overlook it and just be like, oh, it's just him fucking around, he's out there or whatever. But to me, it came across as maybe him having a lot of questions and stuff going through his mind about, I want to say jealous, but of course, wondering, my brother's got powers. Do I have powers? Will I have the same powers? Why don't I have powers if he's got powers? These types of thoughts that may be running through his head. And they haven't directly tackled that in the show yet, but I thought this was this one very subtle scene of him just holding out his hand over a rock and then just kind of pulling it back and just taking a draw of a cigarette. You could just tell there might be stuff going on in his head there, which led me to the question, do you think that by the end of this season, Sean will get powers as well? Because we've never actually considered that at all when we're talking about this series.
Yeah, I don't know. Thinking at it critically, I guess, and from a gameplay perspective, I guess maybe it make a gameplay interesting, because how can you really stand another 3 episodes of how much can you really influence Daniel's use of powers?
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe you might get something, but I don't know. It's possibly. I mean, there's certainly a reason to think he might. I mean, same bloodline, same kind of. Hell, we might find out the mother has powers.
And that's why she ran away in the first place and separated herself from the family. Yeah, that's the same sort of thing I was thinking, actually. But I was thinking, for some reason, thinking about this, I got into a chronicle line of thinking, which is that depending, and this might be too crazy for the type of game it is and how far they want to take the storyline, but I was like, they could take it in a direction where a lot of these little choices that we may throughout the show, the game, the swearing and all these little tiny stuff that we may not be really thinking about much, we could be playing the game towards the end. Maybe they both end up with powers. Maybe they could, in one ending, end up as a superhero team of good, or depending on how you are to Daniel ends up as a villain and Sean actually has to do something to stop him or fight him with whatever his powers are. I don't know if maybe that's too sci-fi for the type of story they're trying to tell, but
they might go into it, because it literally only just occurred to me, maybe they need to suffer some kind of traumatic event to bring out the powers. Of course, Daniel went through it. Yeah, and Max in season 1 watching, what's her name, get shot.
Chloe gets shot.
Chloe,
yeah. That's the overlying through line for how characters in Life is Strange universe get their powers is by traumatic events happening around them. And you could go, well, yeah, Sean was there though, so how come he doesn't have powers? But maybe it wasn't as, which sounds weird to say, maybe it wasn't as traumatic, but maybe it wasn't
a young kid. Yeah, exactly.
Maybe it just really didn't hit him.
He's probably, obviously he knows about race and all that kind of stuff and violence towards minorities and that, so he's kind of, I guess in a way, maybe a little bit more numb to it, as opposed to where I guess Daniel is a bit naive towards it all. Yeah,
it's definitely one of those things where I could see it, if that's him getting powers as well, it could be like a really scene where life and death for Daniel or something. Yeah, and that would kind of cause it to come out in Sean or something like that. Maybe that's what's necessary. But I mean, we are potentially looking at, he could very well have powers. His mum could very well have powers, and we'll talk about her in a little bit, of course. But that would make sense as to why the fuck would she randomly run away? It's well, if she has powers, that kind of makes sense. And so just a little interesting thing. And I don't think they really. I found it interesting that it's an element that they don't outwardly tackle or have him talk about in the show, talking to anyone, of course, or expressing that to Daniel. But in this slight little scene of just having him hold out the hand, I was that was kind of a smart way to include it, I thought. All right. So in the morning, you help Daniel pack and stuff like this, and then he heads out looking for a mushroom, for which I let out. Now this is a part.
I didn't.
Okay, you didn't let out. Okay,
Yeah.
So this is one
So
thing
I knew something was going to happen.
This is one thing I was worried about as I was playing the episode, and then wondering when I got to the end of the episode if I would really regret the decision I made, because of course I let Mushroom out because you wait, like the scene starts barking at the door. I chose to let out. So then, of course, in a moment when the dog dies, then I felt really bad for basically the rest of the episode, because I was like, when I get to the decisions at the end of the game, is it going to tell me you let Mushroom out and then they died because of you, or you didn't let Mushroom out and they lived? At which point I'll be like, I fucking hate this game, everything it stands for. Is that really a decision going to make us like?
I think the fact that because if you don't let him out, you go in to talk to Daniel, and Daniel opens the door with his powers, and then Mushroom goes out because he keeps barking. I think because Mushroom dies no matter what you do, that just cheapens the whole thing for me. It's just such a cheap, like, you barely got to know the dog, and then it just gets taken away from you like that. Like, it's shocking in the moment, but overall it's cheap for me. Like, why did you put him there just to take him away so soon? Like, it's literally like not even 10% of the overall game. It's just...
This is something we was talking about in the first episode when they got the dog, because straight away I was wondering, I'm like, man, having a dog throughout this entire game, that's a lot. Like, that's another character they have to tag on and include into a lot of events that they may not want to. But I could kind of just smell the...
What they could have done for me, like, at least give us the whole episode if you're going to do something like that, or even bring it along to the grandparents, and then that's another...
Leave it there.
Leave it there, or even that is another point of tension between the grandparents and them going, like, obviously they're hiding out the grandparents, but they could go, this is bringing attention to us. They know that, like, we have people here, we can't hide you, or you have to get rid of it, or even you have to leave it here with us because you can't look after it when you can move along. Yeah, that's just cheap.
My biggest problem isn't that Mushroom dies, it's that there's no story, there's no line where Mushroom doesn't die.
Yes, that's the point. That's what makes it so cheap, because if it's the choice that you made and that ended up to that, like, you have to live with that. But where all the choice is taken out of your hand, it's just,
If we were sitting here having this conversation and you were like, I chose not to let Mushroom out, and Mushroom's still alive in my game, and then I would have been going, I feel so bad, But I would at least be okay with that, because it means there are, like, I made that decision, and now I have no Mushroom. You made a different decision, and now you get Mushroom. But the fact that it just forces you, no matter what, to play out a scene that I feel like is just played out for the sake of a cheap thrill, like emotion.
Yeah, exactly.
Tool, like,
it's there to Daniel to show this true extent of his powers when he loses his...
but we're well aware of how powerful he can be when he gets emotional at this stage. We've seen it happen 2 times in episode 1. Obviously, with killing the police officer after the dad dies at the very start. And then again at the end of the episode in the hotel room when he sees on the news and he starts... Like, we've had 2 examples. We're very well aware of how powerful he is. I just feel like this scene and everything is rather cheap, and I wasn't
just give us time with the dog if you're going to do that to us anyway, to build a connection with it.
Yes. It felt cheap, and I wasn't the biggest fan of it though. So the dog dies to a cougar no matter what you do, which I was like, holy shit, this cougar just apparently comes out of nowhere, but they've never seen one in the entire how long they've been living in this cabin, and it just so happens to show up on the one morning they're leaving. I'm like, what are the chances of that, everyone? Oh dear.
Pardon me.
So after they get done dealing with the cougar, they head off to the
Did you let Daniel kill the cougar?
That was good. Yeah, so that's the one decision in this episode is you either intervened and scared off the cougar, or you let Daniel kill the cougar. I of course let Daniel kill the cougar because
of course,
it killed the fucking dog, and I was like, just kill that thing. Like, I'm not gonna. It's like, why would I jump in front of him and risk
Yeah, then the cougar turns on them and bloody mauls them to death.
Mauls. I'm like, no, just let him kill the fucking cougar. Yeah, I was like, I felt like that was a very easy choice. On Daniel's side of choices stuff here, they have like a kind of duplicate one, which is Daniel did or did not kill the cougar. Of course, mine is Daniel did, and then Daniel was able to or wasn't able to bury Mushroom properly. I don't like Daniel was able to in mine. I don't know what causes not able to.
Let's see what happened in mine.
I don't know. Maybe if it plays
Daniel
out
was able to, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know if like the molding can play out in a much more gruesome fashion or something. Like, is the only thing I was thinking about. I don't like because obviously this scene plays out where Sean picks up the dog and then it cuts to a loading screen, and then when it comes back in, they're doing the burial funeral service, what do you want to call it, for the dog. I'm like, there's no point of there where you can kind of be like, no, there's no time. There's no choice of saying there's no time to do this or something like that. It happens no matter what. So yeah, I was like interested to see. Well, I don't really understand how that one plays out, but yeah, not happy the dog died. Of course, it's a sad, cheap, kill for frills, but oh well, I guess.
Yeah,
I could kind of see it coming, but I was still just disappointed that they chose to do it in a fashion that didn't really feel necessary or done right. So then we get a bunch of montage happening where they're going across a bunch of cities. It's like a couple-day journey, I think, is what they said, or something along those lines. And then they end up arriving at their grandparents' place. And at night time, they ring the doorbell or whatever. And when they open the door, neither of them are particularly happy to see Sean or Daniel at their front door. In fact, Stephen just pretty much runs up and was like, "What the hell are you doing here?" I'm like, "Oh, that's very welcoming." Very welcoming stuff that's happening right now. Oh, that's great. So they let them in though, and it becomes very well aware that they have read the papers, watched the TV. They know exactly what's going on, and that Daniel and Sean are two wanted criminals for the blah, 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 blah. But they still let him in. And you're sitting at this dinner table with Sean, and you can kind of look around and stuff, but you hear the conversation happening in the background with the two of them, and they're discussing like if they should let them stay. Let's talk to Sean first and see what he has to say, and all these sorts of things. And then they do choose to let them stay there, which of course we kind of know because if you play Captain Spirit, we know this is the house that we're leading to. Where they're gonna, so it was a lot of like. I know we end up staying here, guys. I know we end up staying here. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. And also, I think another problem with this episode in a whole, for me personally, when it comes to as soon as arriving at the house, is a lot of what's happening around the house until I get to see Chris from Captain Strange, is a lot of me just being like, when's the thing happen? Like, when's the thing? There's a scene happening soon that I know is going to happen. So then we get to see. They skip forward a couple days or something along those lines. I don't think it says. Or I can't remember. But at least
they're settled in a little bit.
Yeah, it's like a bit down the line. They're there, somewhat comfortable around the house. Some sort of routine happening. Daniel's no longer sick. He's got proper food and proper bed and rest into him. So that's a good plus. You get to see a scene play out where they're having breakfast and. Sean's discussing with Claire. Claire, sorry. Scene playing with Claire discussing, what they're going to do and all these sorts of things. They end up discussing it with Stephen a bit later as well. And Sean's still, even though they look happy and comfortable, Sean's still very much like, that's cool and all, but Mexico is still where we're going. There's at no point, at least in my Sean, at no point was he ever really, this is the long term. This is where it'll stay. It's very much a we're stopping here for a little bit.
Stopgap.
So they start hinting at some of the mother stuff here as well, finding out a bit more because Sean begins asking a few questions about their mother and who they are, where she's been, and all these sorts of things, because there's a room upstairs that was their mother's room, which becomes very clear that Claire does not want the kids in that room at all. It's the one time where she gets really like stern and proper, and like, the title rules of the episode kind of comes into play here. It's my house, Sean. If you're going to live in my house, these you got to follow under the rules in my house. That type of thing comes off here. And then you can do a bunch of chores and explore the house here. You can play with the train set upstairs, which is necessary if you actually want to find one of the collectibles, because it's like hidden in the
Now you mentioned it, I didn't find any collectibles.
Yeah, I found a few of them all fine. The hardest one that I had to look up is the train one, because to get it, you have to switch the tracks. Then you have to click on the coal thing and send the train under it so it gets filled up with coal. Then you have to switch the tracks back so then it goes under the tunnel system with the coal now attached into the train, which causes something from within the tunnel to disattach. And then when it comes out the other side, you then have to click another button to cause the train to stop. And then when you click on the train and investigate it, it's like, oh, there's a little collectible here. Yeah, that one was all very...
Yeah.
I probably would have never figured that one out by myself, but that's it. That's the thing. But yeah, you can do a bunch of chores, look around, a bunch of stuff in the house that could kind of build the Reynolds family, I suppose, and stuff like that. Or you can just rush through it very fast because you're like, get me the Captain Strange stuff, get me the Captain Strange stuff, get me the Captain Strange stuff. So to get to there, you have to go over to find Stephen in his room where he's fixing stuff up, and you have a conversation with him. About Chris, not Chris, fucking
Daniel.
Getting ahead. Daniel, about Daniel, how he thinks he's like, there's something a little bit weird about Daniel. Something might be a little bit up with him. And I was very much just, and it is one of the choices in a second, but I was very much like, no, there's nothing wrong at all. What's wrong with your fucking shelf over here? Do you want to get that looked at? That was the one thing in this whole episode that I was like, foreshadowing, is when he's like, can you get that something in that cupboard over there for me? And it's like, oh, it's a bit wonky. This might fall. I was like, foreshadowing. I'm like, this is going to play in very fast.
I confessed to Stephen about Daniel's powers.
How'd that play out?
Fine. Yeah, he was like, oh, don't tell Claire. She wouldn't understand, all that kind of stuff.
He was just like, oh, yeah, powers. Yeah, that's that's fine. That's...
Yeah. Well, the way I was treating it was like they're essentially looking after us. So I try to do everything by the rules, try to be open and honest with them and all that kind of stuff. So
I was still just like, I'm not... follow the rules, whatever. I tried to do some of the chores and like I did put the washing on or what, all these sorts of things. I was like, I'm being a good kid, but when it comes to the power stuff, I'm still just like, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I felt he could be trusted in a way.
Probably more. So, yeah, definitely. He definitely comes off as the nicer one out of, or the most understandable out of the him and Claire. So
and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, when it comes to that, you very much get that from start. Even though he charges to the door and says, "What the hell are you doing here?" But then they after that scene, they kind of make him out to be a lot.
Yeah, well, I've actually showed up my door. I'd go, "What the hell are you doing here too?"
I guess so. I guess that's true. And then after you get that, he gives you the key, and then you can head outside in a second.
Yeah.
But the decisions that I'll play out here are the first night you prayed with Claire and Daniel, you refused to pray with them, or you chose to pray alone. I just straight up refused to pray because, I
think I prayed with. Let me look. Yeah, I prayed with them. Yeah.
You prayed with them. Yeah. I don't. That's one of those decisions. I'm like, what the fuck does this affect in the long run? But anyway, you confessed to Stephen and Daniel about his powers, or pretended you didn't know anything. You obviously confessed to Stephen, and I chose to say I didn't know anything. And then you helped or didn't help with the extra chores. Now this one annoys me because I must have missed one because I got you didn't help with the extra chores.
So did I tried to make sure I did everything. Like,
so did I.
There was even a scene where they were in the kitchen. She was talking about a tap or something. I was like, how the fuck do I fix this? Fix this fucker?
Yeah, because it breaks off and she's like, oh, he can fix his bloody trains, but he can't fix my kitchen or something along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, how do I fix this?
I wasn't going
to do everything. But
I wasn't going that far to try and figure out if I could fix the kitchen, but I definitely thought I had done all the extra chores that were necessary. And then get to the end of the game, it's like, you need to do all the chores. I'm like, yeah, typical fucking grandparents or parents or something. You think you've done everything right, and then there's always something else. Yeah. So I got fucked there. And then Daniel's stuff is Daniel agreed to or refused to pray. Basically the same thing. And then Daniel did or didn't help with the chores or wasn't asked to at all. Mine was Daniel didn't help with the chores because he was like, I don't want to do that. And I was like, yeah, okay, whatever, kid.
Yeah, mine was Daniel didn't want to. Yeah, Daniel didn't want to tidy the room. Yeah. Yeah,
I was like, whatever. Don't help with the room then. Do what you need to do. So then they all head outside, of course, to they're heading out to the shed to find some toys and stuff that could potentially be in here. But as soon as they head outside, we know where this is all going. We know the moment's about to happen. This is the tie-in. It's going to happen. And you see Chris come running down the other side of the yard, and they all Daniel and Sean stop to look at him because he's making a whole racket climbing up his fucking treehouse. Loudest treehouse climber ever, apparently. And then you see what we've already seen at the end of Captain Spirit, of course, but this time from the opposite side of the fence play out, which is that Chris falls, but we now 100%, of course, know for sure that Daniel is the one who stops him from falling and hitting the ground. So it's kind of nice to see it all play out because, of course, when I was talking about Captain Spirit stuff and then when this series was announced and all that sort of stuff, it's like, it's the kids across the fence. And it's one of those things where it was a lot of like a lot of rumors and people like theorizing. And it's one of those ones where it's like it actually just came out to be true, like what everyone kind of was theorizing and thinking was 100% right. So I kind of like that. It's one of those rare cases where it's not completely different or something. So he stops. You go over and talk to him for a bit. He, of course, Chris, I mean, it's like, did you see that? I can't believe I did that. And both Sean and Daniel are like, oh, I didn't, no, I didn't see anything. What's going on? Nothing's going on. Then Chris's dad runs out to see if he's okay. And I would assume that a lot of what his dad says here and how they play, him and Chris are playing off one another is impacted by the import of your Captain Spirit save file, because it is imported when you go into this episode.
Yeah, I think it may be, but it's just so weird. Like, knowing how my Captain Spirit ended, where you were screaming at Chris going, you're the reason your mother died, and all that kind of stuff, and he ran out, and Claire was calling the cops, and then it was all calm and fine. It was like, this is strange to me.
Oh, really?
Like,
so she was calling the cops at the end of yours, but you never...
yeah, no cops ever showed up. So.
Okay, that is weird, because I had the whole explosion at the end, I suppose, and then there was like banging on the door or something, but that's kind of where it ended. I feel like it was something along those lines, and then he ran outside. After he got smacked, like he got hit by the dad.
Yeah,
and he runs outside. Which is played out that is played out a little bit because when the dad runs out, there's you can see like a little mark on Chris. Yeah, and he's like, "Oh, are you okay?" and that, like these sorts of things, but. Yeah, when it comes to the overall, like you're saying, the cops might be coming and stuff. It's like kind of thing. And this is one of my problems with this episode and a whole. And I want to talk about it a little bit more when we end the episode and kind of we end Chris. But I do feel like it's kind of weird. I was really excited to see him tie it all in, and I don't feel like in the overall picture that they did it really well. Because
I think they had hamstrung themselves into, now we got to tie this in. How can we do this? And
also, I think to a degree they shot themselves in the foot by having Chris and the Captain Spirit thing be as good as it was, because it's like he was his own main character and the star of his own thing before we even knew that it was actually going to tie into this at all. It was just he's his own thing, his own character, his own story, which is all super interesting if you play Captain Spirit, and the more you do exploring in that game and the understanding of the story and the psychology of what's going on within that kid and the problems, is some really like messed up and interesting at the same time dark stuff that's going on there. And then in this, he's a supporting character over in the side, and it's like I
think what they could have done was, on their way to the grandparents, they're going through backyards not to be seen, save him from falling, and then they just move on. Yeah, because you spend so much time with him that it makes it worse and worse and worse the more time you spend with him, and that'll give you the answer that the kids
did save him.
The kid did save him, so he doesn't have powers, and then you move on. And then if you want to have that kind of like Daniel to have a relationship with another kid and how he navigates all that kind of stuff, have it with another kid at the grandparents.
Yeah, I agree. When what you just said about them like being walking behind the fences or something like in the forest and just happening to do it, that is what I thought was going to happen. When they announced and we knew they were all going to get tied in and stuff, that was what my theory was going to be, because to me that made the most sense, because then they don't have to worry too much about actually using Chris well and all these sorts of things. But no, he becomes the main part of the story, of course. So you have a little bit of conversation with the dad and all these sorts of things, and that plays out and whatever. But then it ends with dad leaving, and it's as I was just saying, it's kind of weird just because of how much it's like
how dramatic and explosive the ending of that episode
Captain
was.
Spirit was, and then this is just like
down another level here.
It's rather weird. So the decisions that play out here are: you told Daniel he did the right thing saving Chris, or reminded him of the rules. I told him he did the right thing.
I reminded him of the rules.
Ooh, a bit of a stern father over here.
Yeah. Loved the secret to my grandparents, but told him you can't tell anyone. Don't ever use your powers.
It's funny how we're complete opposites. I'm like lied to him, but told him it's fine. Anyway, you use Steven's laptop. This is where you could explore the house in a second. In the opening, I've just tied him in here, but you use Steven's laptop to log into your profile in the morning following this, or you didn't. I didn't log in.
I didn't.
Because I'm a smart kid. It doesn't really matter as far as I'm concerned, because no matter what, of course, the cop show up at the sheriff or whatever shows up at the end of this, I'm like, I should have just fucking done it, because it didn't seem to fucking matter at all. In the same sort of thing, you did or did not call Lila on the phone, or you couldn't talk to Lila and lied to her mum, or you told her mum the truth. I did not call Lila.
I didn't call her either.
No, I didn't even consider finding a phone to call Lila.
No, it didn't even cross my mind.
No.
I don't know how what are the factors that play into you called her or you called her mother? Like,
well, you call her, from what my understanding of the way it's written is you can call her mum will answer the phone, and then depending on what you say to her mum will then put Lila onto the phone or not, or you get stuck in a very long conversation with her mum somehow. Yeah. So it's one of those things as well that's funny just to think about, because that could be like a whole 5 to 10 minute fucking phone conversation that neither of us have experienced at all.
Yeah.
And how much time you could spend on the internet and what that adds to the story and stuff, we just never experienced at all. And it's one of those annoying things I don't like about these games, when the reason I'm picking not to go on the internet and not make phone calls is because I think I'm being smart and making the right decisions to keep keep me and Daniel safe.
Yeah.
But then when it doesn't matter, then you look back on it and you go, well, I should have fucking done that. Like,
I'm missing out on part of the experience.
Yeah, I'm missing out on content trying to make good decisions, but I should just be making whatever decisions, because ultimately it doesn't matter what my decisions.
Which is, whether you like it or not, is one of the good things that I think Detroit did well, was going into depth of explaining of how you ended up where you were. Mm-hmm. Like all the different nuances,
all the little things,
all the variables.
Yeah, for sure. This all happens out in the morning. You can do a little bit of exploring and stuff, those couple choices, and then you head on over to find Daniel, who's over at Chris's house. He's and when I did it, I didn't charge straight to the front door or anything, because I was going to go exploring behind the house at first just to see if anything could be found there, any secrets. And there was one. There's the snowman is a collectible. You can take out one of his things. But
I didn't, because I was like, I've got to get over there. What's Daniel doing? Is he fucking doing the poltergeist shit around the house?
Yeah. Well, I walk straight past the window and I look in and I see them doing it. And then Sean goes, fuck, what the fuck, or something like that. But even with that, I'm just like,
I'll just stroll.
I'll just stroll. I strolled around the back just to see if anything was interesting happening. Stopped at the snowman and then continued to run to the other side of the house. And then it just took a little bit of detour. It's fine.
Yeah.
So you head into Chris's place, and you find out that what's happening is that, of course, Daniel's levitating stuff and whatever else, but he's only doing it when Sean's basically thinking he's doing it, and they're doing this whole weird thing where he's making Chris think that he actually has powers, and which I'm like, why, kid? Why would you think this is a smart thing that you should be doing? Jesus. I suppose I can think about it from a kid's perspective of, like, he's helping him, he likes Chris, and he wants Chris to think that he has powers, because, like, in his mind, it's like a nice thing to be doing, and he's like, I want to be friends with him. I can understand it, but at the same time, you're like, why are you doing it?
You stupid kid.
You stupid fucking kid, stop doing it. So then you can have a whole conversation with Chris about his dad, basically here. I think it's, I can't remember, I'll get through the choices in a moment, but I think it's something that seemed you could skip over or not really have. I did have it play out and ask him a lot about his dad and how it is, and Chris's
his home life and all that.
His home life and these sorts of things. And Chris is basically like, it's, like, dad's sad sometimes, and you know how it play out if you've played Captain Spirit, the way you think about explaining him and his dad's relationship and what's going on there. You then also have a thing play out where this is also one of the collectibles, it turns out. I suppose you can miss it, but you can just replay it, which is he asks you to put all the toys into, like, pick which ones are the villains and the which ones are the heroes, which for some whatever reason my brain was just like, I know this from playing Captain Spirit Seal, like I can remember which ones actually
I
the
thought
villains.
they were, but I got a couple wrong.
You got a couple wrong, yeah. It's like most of them are villains. There was only like two.
Yeah, there was like two or three
that you actually had to pick or something like that. That are actually the heroes. I was like, blah blah blah. Clicked them all, and then if you get that right, he gives you a toy or something, and that's one of the collectibles as well for the episode. But after all that happens, Chris's dad comes out, who was apparently just in the back room this entire time, but we had no idea that was a thing, which makes, of course, Daniel using his powers even more like facepalm. Why was that a thing that you was doing, child? Please, why? And you have a little bit of conversation with him. He's like, "What the fuck are you doing in my house at first?" But he's like, "Oh wait, you're his brother. Oh yeah, the kid from the other day. Sure. Sorry, I was really drunk that day. I'm fine at the moment though. Let's Christmas.
Let's all jump in the car. And
let's all jump in the car. Go down the road. So do you want to come Christmas shopping? Let's go look at the Christmas tree. I don't know what the fuck they call this thing, but they all jump in the car and they head down to I wrote down Christmas tree lot, and then in brackets, don't know what you call these because I don't know what they refer to, because of course we don't have them here in Australia, obviously, but in America they're a big thing. I understand.
Yeah, they get real trees.
They use real trees. We use a bunch of plastic fake shit here.
Yeah,
whatever.
They hate the environment, just cutting down trees.
Yeah, every year just cutting down all these fucking trees and stuff. What are you doing over here? So when you get to the Christmas tree lot, not a lot to do here really.
Before we go there, I hate that we had to go here no matter what.
I agree.
Like,
yes.
Why the fuck? Like, I'm like, no, we're not going. I don't know. You can say fucking bar of soap, and you can fucking get a driving into town. I don't know what your motives are.
This is one of those things where, as soon as the choice came up, my brain was like, I could try and argue against this, but I could. My brain's just telling me it doesn't matter. Like, you're going there no matter what, which is, of course, is true. You're going there no matter what. So
don't give me the choice then. Like, if that's what's going to happen, don't give me like. I'm fine with stuff happening that's beyond my control, but don't give me the illusion that I can affect it in any way. Like, make me have a more nuanced effect, not like yes or no. And even if I say no, yes happens anyway.
I'd rather it just be like, Sean's like, no, we're not going or something. And then like Daniel's so just like, no, I'm going. And then Sean's just like, oh, fine, I'll fucking go just because he's going something. But it's more like, it just plays out more natural of, Daniel, I'll go if you want to go.
You're so like my Sean is so cautious about keeping to the rules and not telling anyone and staying at low key. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, let's we'll go down to the fucking shops with you."
Yeah, which of course leads to them.
Which
the end of this
episode. Fucking grandma and grandpa are only an hour away from coming home, and he goes, "Oh yeah, it's a couple of miles away." I was like, "How the fuck were you going to get back in time?"
Which we do somehow as well. Yeah, but. It's fine. Yeah, it's a bad idea. You can't get out of it. So you arrive at the Christmas tree lot. You can look around. You can do some shopping. You can look at some trees. There's overall not really too much to do here. The main thing is interacting with Cassidy and Finn, which is important because obviously they're going to be characters that are in episode 3, which we'll talk about a little bit as well. So she's playing a guitar song. You can shoot, from what I understand, because I looked into it afterwards, because I watched the entire song play out, because most of the time in Life is Strange, when it has these scenes where I can watch a song section, I will usually just watch it all. Like, I'll just experience the whole thing, and I'll happily put my controller down for 3 minutes, and I'll just sit there, because I usually, like, there's a lot of these, like, even in the house, when you're exploring it, for example, there's a scene where you can go upstairs and you can just sit on the balcony and music starts playing and it's looking around. And if you sit there for like a minute or two, all of a sudden Daniel just shows up and then he ends up sitting down next to you and then they're having a conversation. And so a lot of times in Life is Strange games, if there's an opportunity, I'll put my controller down for as long as necessary just to see what happens.
Most of the time I'll do that, but this episode I just wanted to get done with.
You're like, fuck this shit, I need it to be over. Well, plus, I was like, she's playing good. I like this song. Like, I'm like, good job, girl. You're playing a good song over here. So, but I looked up afterwards because I found it confusing because obviously when I was playing it, I listened to the whole song, and then when the song ends, she starts a conversation with you and was like, "Oh, thanks for listening to the whole song."
Yeah.
So then I was wondering like how it worked if you didn't, and I find out that it basically works that she'll just start talking to you when you're trying to leave the place, no matter what. Like start some sort of conversation. You don't get the same full type of conversation, of course, but she still talks to you no matter what. Like you can't do this scene without talking to her somewhat.
Yeah,
and
I didn't listen to the whole song, but I don't exactly remember how it happened. I think once you skip out of it, like how you can, the conversation just happens.
Yeah, I don't know. But either way, end up talking to her. She introduces herself. Sean's asking her a bunch of questions. She's like, "Oh, we're traveling around, whatever, playing music stuff." She comes across as a quirky kind of fun character, of course. Has a sign, we'll eat for money, we'll eat for whatever, some sort of funny sign written there. She's got quirky character, the way she's talking and being kind of funny. Says that they're going to when Finn comes in, which he's also a bit of a weird. They're both like hippie fucking whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, I got the feeling that they come across as nice and like all like bro, family, hippie kind of stuff, but they would take advantage of you if they had the opportunity.
Oh, really?
That's the impression I got from them.
I wasn't sure about Finn because we don't really have a conversation, but I thought she was fine.
Finn more so than the other one. Like she would go along with it because of the group she's with, but he seems more, I guess, douchey to me in a way.
Well, we'll find out. I think we'll find out next episode either way.
Yeah.
They explain that they're going to... Yeah. They explain that they're going to Humboldt County in California, which is basically the weed capital of the world, which then makes sense when you see the preview for the next episode as well. And they're doing that by train hopping. Oh, this is setting up where the episode eventually ends, of course. Like train hopping, Humboldt County, blah, 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 blah. As they go to leave, though, they have this is the only scene in this episode after... The entirety of episode 1, which was heavy on, of course, like giving a lot of viewpoints and like political, if you want to use like in the keywords. But this is the only scene where I felt like there was something written to this episode where they was having the writers of Life is Strange were having a kind of thought or opinion on something, which is that, of course, as they're leaving, because they look like bums or whatever hippie types, the dude straight away starts attacking them basically because of the type of people and stuff they are. So I feel like this is the only scene in this where it's like they're kind of getting their viewpoint out on that sort of nature of how like the middle class will attack lower class people, these sorts of things,
Yeah, I didn't read into that as a political statement. I just read into it like that happens in media all the time. Like, you're a stranger in our town, get out of here.
Well, I think it's just because Sean and Daniel are both like that guy's.
Oh dick. Yeah,
like it's very much framed as that guy's the bad guy.
Yeah.
Like, and of course from the writer's perspective,
I was waiting for one of them to recognize you and call the cops on you, especially that dude.
Yeah, there's another thing is like when you're done with them, I started talking and I brought Sean I brought Daniel a Christmas present and stuff, and one of the dudes you're talking to is like, oh yeah, I know.
I know your grandparents,
and stuff, like he used to be a firefighter and all these sorts of things. I'm like, if you know him that well, like, do you not just recognize me? And maybe he's the person who later just calls the fucking sheriff for all we know. We have no idea. Maybe he just plays along while you're in his company, but then after that, just is like, yeah, fuck you, and calls the cops on you. But it is really weird how much they recognize and stuff. And they talk about how they used to visit the family, like they did visit once with their mum and stuff. So it's like, maybe he would recognize them. Maybe he was around then. I don't know. It is weird. And overall, very bad idea, of course.
Stephen had a Hispanic grandchild. You're a Hispanic child.
Yeah. I mean, we're in a fucking middle of wherever the hell we are, where basically every person is white.
Random 2 Hispanic kids showed up.
Might be standing out a little bit. So this all plays out. Then they get into the back of. You can buy a gift. I found out later in the choices you can buy multiple gifts. I only end up buying one.
I hated this as well because my only choice was to steal a gift. Like, I couldn't.
Did you not have money?
I couldn't afford to buy a gift, and I couldn't leave without having to steal a gift.
How much money did you have? $0.
I don't know. I had some money, but not enough to buy anything.
Okay, because that dude gave me a discount also.
He didn't, because I think I think he asked you or something, and I lied to him about not knowing them in some way.
Okay.
I think if you say that you know them, he gives you a discount or something.
Yeah. Well, whatever I said, he was like, I'll give you the family discount or something along those lines, which kind of made my $9 be able to afford something. Yeah. I think I brought a teddy thing that had a Christmas hat on or something along those lines.
Okay, I stole a yo-yo.
Was it from the same place or was it from the place opposite end?
No, I think it was... because he was on the gate and then there was another one around.
Yeah.
I think it's from that other one.
The other one around. Yeah, there's one where you enter and then there's one where the stuff with these two, Cassie and Finn, play out. So it's weird that it forces you to steal something. Once again, it's like it's too like forcing you to a certain
I was like, I'm getting caught here. They're calling the cops on me.
Yeah, it's like ultimately when it comes down to it,
it's too much of a risk.
Would you risk stealing a Christmas present? Like, no, you wouldn't. You wouldn't. It's not. And Daniel would understand that, obviously.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
For me, the furthest thing from his mind would be, where's Santa? Where's my Christmas present?
Yeah, where's Santa? Yeah, exactly. So choices that play out here are you gained Chris's trust and got him to open up about his father. You gained his trust but didn't talk about his father, or didn't gain his trust at all. I gained his trust and he opened up about his father.
I didn't gain his trust.
Oh, you told Daniel to stop lying to Chris, or you tell Daniel to just be careful and protect his secret. I did just be careful and protect your secret.
Same for me. Yep.
Yeah. You listened to Cassidy's song till the end, or didn't? Obviously, I listened to it in full.
I didn't. Yep.
You drew a spaceship for Chris, drew zombies for Chris, or you didn't draw for Chris at all. I didn't draw at all. I didn't come across the drawing scene.
I drew zombies. You sit down at the park bench between the shops. And
I did it later when I had to come back into here to look for the collectible I missed, and I did it then, but I didn't notice it at all the first time. You brought a present for Daniel. You stole a present for Daniel. You found several presents for Daniel. Obviously, I brought a present and you stole a present. You had an honest conversation with Charles about his problems, or you didn't get involved. This is when you arrive back and you're about to get out of the car. And the thing, I had an honest conversation with Charles and basically told him that he should sort his shit out.
I didn't get involved. I was like, my grandparents are going to get back here in a fucking minute. Let me get out of the car. I don't give a shit about your problems.
I think the reason I wanted to have the conversation is because I'm still just like attached to that storyline from the Captain Spirit thing, which is why I was like, I'm going to fucking I want to help this kid's life. Are we doing this? Is this still a thing? I'm attached to him as a character now. And then the one Daniel thing from this was Daniel told Chris the truth of his power, continued lying to Chris, or wasn't asked to tell Chris at all. Wasn't asked to tell Chris at all. Although it makes me wonder if you tell him to tell, like, can it play out where you can tell him to stop lying to Chris, but then he continues to lie to Chris anyway? Like, is there some sort of, because it's funny how there's three different
maybe he said, I've got powers and you got powers too, or some shit like that. Maybe.
We both got them. Whoa!
Yeah.
It's weird how they only work when we both use them at the same time, though. That's crazy. So when they arrive back at the home, no one is still there. They're still at church, apparently, even though like it's several miles away. They spend at least half an hour there. Very long church. Even the church is ages away, or it's a very long Sunday sermon.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which one it is. Begin exploring a lot. You can start looking around a little bit here if you want, but the main point is that Daniel really wants to look into their mum's room, Karen's room, upstairs, and you have to find a key, and you can look around a bunch in Claire's room for the key. I did not find it. I'm not sure if you can actually find it.
You can. I read that you can, but it's in like a super obscure spot. It's like it's in the bathroom, in the laundry, or something like that. Really? It's like, why the fuck would I look in there?
Because I found a key that unlocked another thing, and then that's another key.
That's about the extent I got.
Yeah, and it's like looking in the side tables and like the wardrobe and all sorts of things like that. But I was like, there's no fuck key. And then eventually Daniel's like, begins yelling or whatever, and you go talk to him, and then you can let him blast the door open. Inside the room is a bunch of Karen's stuff, which helps kind of, if you look at it and explore a lot of it, build some sort of personality for Karen, I suppose, is the main point. You get an idea of what kind of person she was, at least as a kid, a teenager, I guess, because that's what the room is most likely from. She was a teenager or something. But the most important thing that's in the whole room that you find eventually is a letter that she'd recently sent to Claire, her mum, asking her to help her kids Sean and Daniel, which is really important because up until this point in the episode, we pretty much got the idea that Karen had fucked off. She'd left and that she wasn't she'd never talked to Sean Daniel's dad ever again. And she wasn't talking to had made contact with her parents in the 16 years or whatever it had been since she fucked off. Whether or not this is the first letter that I gathered that it was the first time that she had made contact with her mum ever since.
I think so, yeah. Because it's kind of like out of the blue, like if my kids come here, look after them for me.
Look after them, yeah.
Yeah, out of the blue, yeah. You haven't heard from me in a while.
Which is obviously important because up until this point, it's kind of painting a picture of Karen as this mum who just abandoned and probably hadn't thought about her family or her kids in the 16 years. But then having the fact that she's run off somewhere, but she's still read enough and cared enough to see her kids on the news and then to like message her mum for the first time in 16 years that she cared enough to do that, then does paint this picture of, like I was saying before, like, I think there's a lot more to her leaving beyond just...
I get the impression that she's in some way, whether she's got powers or whatever, she's protecting them by not being
staying
there.
Away. Like she chose to... She didn't leave just because she... wanted a new life or something like that. It does just come across like she left and she stayed away because in her mind she was protecting her her kids and stuff like that is what it seems. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out, of course. And then it's like, what was her big triggering moment as well? Like what happened when they were? Yeah, because I'm not sure how old they were, but like Sean's old enough to remember at least visiting them and stuff like that. So he wasn't like 3 or something. Like maybe he was 6 to 8 or something. Like I don't know, like how the age when you like would remember.
Well, it was before Daniel was born and after, obviously.
Yeah, so I suppose. Yeah, I suppose he would be around like maybe 5-ish or something then, I guess, and potentially remember some stuff. But yeah. So, but if there has to be a triggering. If she does have powers, there has to be a triggering moment. And then I'm like, they've never talked about like something dramatic happening. But I don't know. Maybe her and their dad got into an argument or something.
Something happened, or maybe I don't know. Maybe he like beat up on her or something. Like he got drunk.
That would be a big turn for that. That'd be a big turn for that character, considering how they set him up as this like nicest dad ever kind of thing, which is really important to when he plays his death, because then it makes you feel so bad because they open that episode with being like, this guy's really cool. Look how nice he is. He gave me money even though I said I was going to use it to buy weed, and then he dies. So that would be a huge swing of thumbs.
It kind of would make a sense like he's maybe in a way trying to make an extra effort on his kids, knowing how bad he fucked up his marriage or something like that.
Yeah, that's a very dark route to go, but it'd be interesting, I suppose. And of course, at this point, as they're reading the letter, Stephen and Claire arrive home, and a whole fight starts playing out. Claire yelling about breaking into the room, breaking the rules, all these sorts of things. Stephen basically says, fuck this shit. I'm not putting up with this. I'm peace out, everyone. Bye. I'll see you later whenever you're done yelling. Then they continue talking for a little bit, and then they hear bang crash and Stephen yelling out. And of course, the fucking cupboard thing has fallen on top of Stephen, which
we didn't see this coming
so heavily before.
This was the scene where they focused for half a minute on A Quiet Place with the nails sticking out of the floor.
Yeah, basically, 100%. So then you have whole thing. You save him no matter what. The choice will get to. There is a little bit of difference, which we can talk about in a second. But no matter what, you do end up saving Stephen, getting him out from underneath that cabinet, and then a cop turns up, sheriff, whatever it is, knocking on the door, begins yelling that there's been reports they saw the kids in town at the Christmas thing or whatever. Claire then begins talking to the sheriff and being like, oh, what? Nothing. I've never been around here. And then the kids begin grabbing all the stuff, and then they head out the back door to escape. While escaping, a cop car may or may not spot you while you're trying to escape, which will lead to several different outcomes with Chris. But ultimately, it ends with the brothers escaping off into the woods in some direction. And this whole thing here is the stuff where it kind of annoyed me with Chris the most as well, because it's like no matter what happens with Chris here, no matter what, it makes you kind of go, do we get Captain Spirit too? Like his story's not done, because in one thing, he can get hit by a car. In another thing, and the way it plays out for me is he learns that he isn't the one with powers. No matter what thing happens with Chris and how it plays out, I feel like most people would want to know what happens with Chris. But the thing is, story-wise, we know we're not going to come back to Chris in Life is Strange 2. Like, we're leaving him behind. This is a road trip series, like a road. Yeah. We're moving forward. We're not going to loop back.
We're not going back as these characters.
Yeah, we're not going back as these characters. So that really does make me go, you have to, DontNod, you have to give me, at the end of this series, I don't care if I have to wait that long, but once this series wrapped, bonus, Captain Spirit to return to it, see the aftermath of what happened to Chris's character, and you need to wrap up how he feels given the end of this, and then see some more of what happens with his dad and his relationship play. Because I do feel like it's really kind of mean to a degree to set up and have such an interesting character in his own game, then basically sideline him as a supporting character, and then leave his story unfinished, and then not even know if we're ever going to go back to it to see it finished. It's like basically throwing 2/3 of a book at me and going, the last, maybe, don't know, one day. So that is the one thing that probably annoyed me the most.
Which they would not have had this issue if they just did what we said that they should have done.
100%, because you would have been like, I would have been like, I wonder how their relationship plays out, but then the same as like if Captain Spirit had left on that cliffhanger and I never got anything more about it, would have been fine. It's just because we get so much more in this, and they build and build and build, and then we're so closer to seeing. We're now 2/3 of the way through the story. I feel like with Chris and stuff. That's like, just give me the fucking ending. Give me another episode to see it play out. Yeah. All right. So the thing is here, you let Daniel use his power to help Steven, or you chose to pull Steven out together and injure his leg. I let him use his power.
So did I.
I figured you might.
Steven already knew, and shit was already fucking happening. Like, time to get out of there. Well, time to fuck around. Yeah,
I was thinking when it's happening, I'm like, I know the cabinet's on top of him. I wasn't worried about his legs. I'm like, sure, that's gonna crush his like windpipes or something. Like, I'm like, this is life or death situation now. And if we're at a life or death situation, as I talked to Daniel about when I was in the cabin earlier in the game, when he was like, when can I use my powers? It's like, as a very last resort, life or death type thing. Like, well, this is the kind of scenario I was talking about with him, where it's like, well, he could die. Steven could die. So yes, we would use the powers to help him here. And then another thing that happens is the cop chased you and Chris was hit by the car. The cop chased you and Chris wasn't hit by the car. The cop didn't chase you and Chris helped you escape. I got the cop chased you and Chris wasn't hit by the car, because the cop comes... the cop comes charging out. Chris jumps in front of it, but then, of course, Daniel flips out of the way.
What they could have done here was cops around the back of the house, so they're trying to get away. Mushroom bites onto one of the cops and the cop shoots it, or something like that. That could have been a way to do it.
And then Mushroom stuck there.
Yeah,
that would have been a way better way to do it. But instead, we get this shit or something. Yeah.
I want to know what the situation is that Daniel does get hit by a car. I guess if you've been on Daniel the whole time about not using your powers, not using it. Yeah.
I think that's exactly what it is. If you're a hard ass on him throughout the entire episode, that when it comes down to the moment where he could have chosen to use his powers to actually save his life, because you've been so hard on him, he doesn't. And I want to know how you get to where you don't. The cop doesn't see you, and Chris helps you escape. Because that's, out of all the options, that seems like he still thinks he has powers. That's okay. He doesn't hate him. The cop never see. Like, that's the best outcome. I'm like, how the fuck do you get to the best outcome here? I want to know how to do it. Either way, didn't get it. So the final scene that plays out here is they've ran off into the bush for X amount of miles or whatever the hell's going on here, and they stop some sort of log, have a bit of conversation about what's happened, of course. And I presume yours would have been very much similar to mine, considering we had the same outcome with Chris. It's a like kind of sad, but not too sad. Like he's upset that he's upset that Chris would know about. Daniel's upset that Chris would know about his power, doesn't have powers, and these sorts of things. And Daniel's biggest worry is apparently like, oh, he hates me. Like, little kid problems is still the number one thing he's most worried about here. But then you give him a Christmas gift, and he was happy to have it in mind. Like, wasn't too sad. Although when you look at the outcomes, there is one where it's like he was too upset to even care about the Christmas gift and stuff. So overall, I feel like the ending we both would have got is like a
Very
okay
similar,
ending.
Yeah.
Compared to, I assume there's like a really happy, everything is kind of okay, and then of course there's a like Chris has his leg fucking broken, like what are we doing? I hate you, you're a shit brother. Like I feel like that's.
Have you seen where he gets a scene where he gets hit?
No, I didn't look it up or anything. Did you?
I was wondering how violent it may be.
Yeah, I presume he just gets. I don't know, but poor Chris. Is all I'll say. So then the two of them, we find out after they've been sitting on a log, the reason they stopped and they'd been sitting here to talk is because they were actually waiting for a train to come by, all the foreshadowing before the conversation. And they jump onto the train and then they head off. And then the after credits teaser thing for episode 3 sets up that they jumped on train and they got off at Humboldt County, which is where they knew Cassidy and that were going. What was his name? I've already forgot. Cassidy and that was talking about them going, and the whole teaser is just from inside a marijuana plantation thing, and you see marijuana plants everywhere, and you hear her saying, "I'll show you around the place." So that's where they're heading in episode 3, off to good old Humboldt County, California. So the choices that play out at the end of the episode here are Daniel blamed himself for Chris's accident. He blamed Daniel for his accident, or didn't blame anyone because Chris was fine. We both would have got the same thing, which is didn't blame anyone because Chris was perfectly fine. And then the next one was Daniel enjoyed his Christmas present or was too upset to enjoy it. And once again, we would have got the same thing, which is Daniel enjoyed his Christmas present and he was perfectly okay with all that.
There was 2 more before that. There was overall Daniel was encouraged to use his powers and Daniel was repressed from using his powers. I got encouraged.
I got repressed. Although, honestly, I find it really weird that I got repressed considering
so do I.
I let him use it several times and was like, yes, use it to stay Steven. Yes, use it. Like, didn't get angry about saving Chris or anything. So I'm like, repressed, motherfucker? No, but okay.
And then I got Daniel didn't have to save Chris. Daniel used his powers, or Daniel didn't use his powers. And then we obviously both got Daniel used his powers to save Chris.
Use his powers to save Chris. Yeah. How do you feel about the teaser at the end and them heading off to with just based on us? There's not much to lead on, obviously, because we don't know what's going to happen. But I suppose like the one question you can answer is, how do you feel about spending a lot of time with Cassidy and potentially a bunch of marijuana growers and stuff like up that in that area, and the potential storyline of them spending a fucking month there earning money, or as Daniel decides to work in marijuana fields or something like that to get some money going.
I don't know how I feel about them. If it's just going to be from now on, a whole episode takes place in one area, kind of like The Walking Dead, where we have 3 seasons at the farm and then another 10 seasons at the prison or something like that. Like for a road trip, it seems if it's going in that direction, it's very like a stall kind of thing, like stop, go, which I don't know. Just from the way I felt from the end of this episode, like I'm obviously going to play it, but I'm not as excited to go into episode 3 as I was finishing episode 1 to go into episode 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I feel the same way, even though obviously I was more...
feel a bit better about it. Yeah.
I felt better about the episode than you did, but I still feel the same way ending the episode, and I feel like that... I mean, that can't really be helped because episode 1 was just so epic, and I suppose that's the word to use, that of course going into episode 2 was more of a what the fuck happens, and then because this episode, like, it's its own like kind of self-contained little thing, really. Like there's not really any big cliffhanger answer thing as much to tackle.
It's I guess it happened.
Yeah, it's a thing that happened. But I liked Cassidy enough that the idea of spending some time with that character is intriguing to me.
I think what I feel towards them is that they're going to be unpredictable.
Like, do you reckon they're actually going to do what you're theorizing before about them potentially like turning bad or like causing some problems with them along those lines?
I reckon they're going to get into them related troubles. I don't know if it's going to be them meaning to, maybe, or if it's going to be ancillary from knowing them. Like, obviously they're going to where marijuana's being grown. Are they going to get involved into
the bad people
and all that kind of stuff? Yeah. Which I don't know if I want them to do because they've tackled it in the last 2 seasons as well. Like Chloe on drugs, and then in Beyond the Strange, there was all those criminals and the drug dealers and all that kind of stuff.
Do you remember, and I this only just sprang to my head now as I would have looked it up before, do you remember what year Life is Strange 2 is taking place in? Do you remember if it's set they're like 2018, like 2019, whatever, 2017-ish, or it's like really early before? Because I suppose the thing here is, if it's set like this period, like any sort of like latest couple of years.
Like with the legalization.
With the legalization, it's a lot different story and characters that they could meet up there compared to if they were setting it before the legalization, you know.
Do a quick fact check.
Could do a quick fact check. But it's like, if they did it before legalization, everyone up there is a criminal, right? Yeah. So you could guarantee that everyone that they're going to be meeting is going to be a criminal, and that's a whole set of story paths that they could go down. Now, if they set it during the after the legalization, which I believe it is, for sure, I think, because that's since like 2000 and what? I don't know, it's like 5 years ago or whatever it is. It's something along those lines. I can't even remember now.
I don't think it's been that long.
I feel like it's been at least a couple of years, hasn't it? Like since the...
I don't know.
We don't live in America. It's hard to remember all these things. But if it is set after legalization, that means that although there are still people up in Humboldt County, and I only know this because I recently watched a Netflix documentary about it, there are still people up there who do illegally grow. You know, they don't have their license and these sorts of things. So they could have them interact with those sorts of characters.
So
the majority of people are legal growers.
Sorry to interrupt you. Their journey begins after a sudden death of their father, Espan, at age 45, was killed by a police officer on October 28th, 2016.
Yeah, so then it's like, to double check, it's like, when was marijuana made legal in California? Do that quick. Marijuana
legalization of weed in California.
Yeah, it's like, when did the dates line up to work this one out?
In November 2016, California voters approved. Okay. So it's happening
at the moment.
It's happening like they would have just coming up to voting for it.
That answers the question then. So that means that they are still going to be interacting with
criminals.
Criminals. Legal. We're not saying they're bad people, but they are.
No. But
criminals.
But the letter of the law, they're criminals.
By the letter of the law, they're criminals. Yeah. So that kind of sets up, I suppose, the type of people, like, for sure. Because if it was set after, they would be, you know, they would a high chance of meeting up with people who are just, you know, they're legally, they're running, you know, they're businesses. They're just business owners, you know, so it's a whole different character stuff. And then when they do stuff like this, setting the year and stuff and knowing they would have outlined the story and like outlined the basic premise of every episode, then of course deep dived into spreading those out as they get into them. It's like, makes me wonder if they set the date so they can do the story pre-legalization, and then are they going to have a lot to say about the legalization and how it's being handled at the time? I feel like now that we're talking about it, that's potentially what the next episode's going to go into.
Like
and a lot of like their views, DontNod's views on legalization and what was happening in California at the time, which now that I'm talking about, I'm like, that could be quite interesting depending on how it's done. It's an interesting topic still, even though of course we know that it does become legalized. But there's a lot of stuff like in that documentary I watched on Netflix. A lot of it comes down to, because they're talking to the growers and stuff up there. A lot of people who don't legalize is because the costs of taxes and all these sorts of things basically ruins the money, and that's why they choose to stay illegal, because like by the time they pay all those bills and stuff like that,
there's not as much money in it.
They can't. So I don't know if they're going to tackle that, but I feel like it definitely could be interesting when we play episode 3 in about 2 years time from now.
It'd be interesting if they do tackle it, how they would tackle it in the context of Daniel and Sean. Like, what would they care about the taxation of weed growers? And
I suppose they wouldn't. It would just be like having them as characters floating through the piece, which I don't know, depending on how it does. I can't really say now because we don't know if they're actually going to do it. And then even if they did do it, it'd be depending on how it's done and told is if it would actually be interesting a storyline for them to go through. But now that we've added up the dates and stuff, I would put money on that being
that's where it's going. It has to be.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense to me. All right, that is going to be it for this episode of Beyond the Strange. Thank you for watching or listening, because of course you can watch the video version of the show at youtube.com/Explosion Network. You can find the YouTube video and the audio versions on explosionnetwork.com, and or of course you can just search your podcasting services, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the other ones that happen to be around, to find the show and listen to it there as well. If you liked it, please share it on the Twitters or the Facebooks or whatever you need to do, or rate it on Apple Podcasts. Give it a 5-star review and be like, this is the best Life is Strange After show ever. They literally cracked the code live as they were recording. They figured it out. That's how smart these guys are. You can, I don't really know these days if I pimp Nick's Twitter or not really, or what do I even pimp for you? You're just like, you're abandoned everything.
Discord. Get on the Discord. Yeah.
You can chat to Nick on Discord by going to explosionnetwork.com/Discord and talking to him in our Discord over there. You can follow me on Twitter at Vivaladil, VIVALADIL, and you can follow Explosion Network on Twitter at ExplosionPod. Until the next episode of this, or next time we see you on some other show, bye-bye. Have a lovely, strange couple months until next episode.
Smash that like button, defile that subscribe button, and ring-a-ding-ding that bell.
All those things.